There once was a white-tailed deer in a wild forest of Michigan. Her name was Willow. She was but a small fawn in the midst of the trees. Willow laid in the shady beds of trillium where they grow best. The white flowers protected her. They were her fairy godmothers in flower form. Her white spots blended in with the white flower buds and concealed her from the evil gray wolves and sky-high eagles. However, poor Willow did not know what being hidden from the wolves and eagles were not enough. She was too young and too naive to understand ecology and how her forest would one day turn into nothing. So Willow played in her little wild forest, oblivious to her surroundings. She pranced about, hopping from one place to another. She devoured the pink lady slippers growing in the thick of the forest, the grasses growing at the edge of the pond, the acorns under the oak trees. Now Willow was a little curious fawn. She dug her nose into every little crevice there was. Every last crabapple that had fallen from the blossoming trees was in her stomach the second they fell. All the blooming flowers had been picked at and demolished in no time. Her hunger could not be satisfied. This became a great problem as the invasive species came along. Unlike the wild gray wolves, garlic mustard were plants that were not afraid of prancing fawn. They had no care in the world whether Willow ran about or danced in the trillium meadow. All they wanted was to grow, grow, grow. They simply needed to grow so big and fast that everything else was wiped out. It grew fast and thick in the shade right by the trillium. Yet unlike the trillium who needed outside pollinators, garlic mustard could self-pollinate. This means they don't rely on others and have their own seed bank, giving it the ability to double, triple, and quadruple its growing area. So soon, the garlic mustard started to impede on Willow's little trillium meadow. Although their leaves were bitter and she couldn't eat them, they also had white budding flowers, so Willow thought none of it and allowed them to continue growing and camouflaging her. But she wanted to find her mother, so she went about wandering in the forest in hopes of finding her. On her journey through the forest, she stumbled upon the pond and decided to take a drink. She looked down at her reflection, but the green algae was thick and full. She plunged her head under water and drank the bits of clean water while watching small fish swim by. Willow walked around the pond as she wondered where her mother was. She wished she could be a fish with many brothers and sisters so she could always play. Deer typically only travel in small packs of 3, but she didn't even have anyone. Being all alone and bored, she looked to the birds to entertain her. Nearby there was an open patch of asters, and in the patch there was a small goldfinch pollinating the flowers. Willow spotted him and crept toward it slowly. As she approached the yellow bird, it flew away and Willow chased after him. However, she quickly lost him as he disappeared in the sky, which she then realized had been brought right back to her small trillium meadow. Tired from her chase, Willow laid down in the area of trillium amidst the garlic mustard. Right as she closed her eyes, she heard fast rustles in the treetops. Her cup-shaped ears perked up, moving in different directions in hopes of finding the source of the sound. Using her big wide eyes, she could see a bird moving swiftly through the trees. She stomped and snorted in hopes that it would leave. Willow was frightened without her mother. She didn't know how she could defeat the wild eagle. She did what fawns are best at doing. She hid. Laying low in the trillium, she hoped the white flowers and shade of the trees would keep her safe. Luckily for Willow, her fairy godmothers were on her side and kept her safe and sound while the eagle soared off to other forests. Once the eagle was fully out of her sight, she decided she would continue wandering in hopes to either find her mother or a place with more flowers. She gobbled up the trillium and went off. 2 weeks later, after journeying through the forest, she made her way back to her trillium meadow. But trillium meadow she found not. Instead, the garlic mustard had doubled in size. Willow didn't know what to do. She had already eaten all the trillium and crab apples from the area of the forest, so the garlic mustard had taken over everything. She had no home left as the garlic mustard continued to pollinate right in front of her eyes. She surveyed the forest and did all she could. She left her precious meadow and wandered about forever.